Hey there, it's Stu. We had a little bit of an issue recording this week, technical problem, so I had to use our backup tape. So it's going to sound a little bit different, and it'll be back to normal next week, just so you know. Still a fun show. All right, see ya.
This is Total Babble. Total Babble. It's a show about music, pop culture, social media, movies, the internet, relationships, TV, whatever. Total Babble. The Total Babble Podcast.
All right, Bitchalantes, activate.
Mount up!
That could be our new start of the show. It's kind of like Wonder Twin Powers activate, or kind of like some big robot turning into another big robot. We are the Bitchalantes, and that could be a fun thing. Hello, how are you?
Hello, I'm very well, thank you, and I'm very much into the Bitchalantes mount up as long as we please use the few opening bars from Nate Dogg and Warren G's Regulate.
I wondered if that's what you were talking about. See, we'll have to come to an agreement on this because I kind of pictured like a big robot, like the kid robots that they had in the 80s where they would become another robot, Transformers.
Voltron or Transformers.
Yeah, so it was kind of like that in my head, and then you pictured a whole Warren G thing. I don't know. We'll have to figure that out. That's a thing.
Maybe we could have robots transforming to the dulcet tones of Nate Dogg and Warren G.
And no matter what, they will look very agitated and very cross because they are the Bitchalantes.
Bitchalantes.
So another show. She's Emily. I'm Stu. Hi, welcome to it. I am wondering, first off, last week it was a big mystery. Did we ever determine why your house was shaking?
No. We did not ever determine why the house was shaking. But what I think might have happened was somebody was walking heavily, or there was a washing machine, like a piece of equipment that was...
Because from what I saw with your camera shaking, it would seem like there would have to be a giant walking on your roof. That kind of thing.
It was quite aggressive. The mystery endure.
Because if need be, I can come out there and set up a tent in your front yard and monitor the situation and do a full investigation. But then you would have to tell your kids that I'm not a creepy homeless guy. And I was all set to do that. And then I remembered that many of your neighbors hunt there. So I thought maybe that wouldn't be a good idea because I would get shot in the head.
We have a lot of people who are very enthusiastic about neighborhood watch. You cannot even drive a car that is unusual down this street without at least two people questioning who is your daddy and what does he do. People will stop cars on this street and say, "Can I help you?"
And you say, "No, I don't need any help." And you just smile at them. And then they get really tense and agitated.
And then they'll just say, "Okay, cool, then move along." And we have a bunch of army vets on our street who are a little bit intimidating.
My perception of your people would be that they'd go, "Hey, that person looks a little bit left-leaning. Let's kill him." That's my perception. He's almost a lefty. Let's shoot him.
No, not at all. We're very accepting around these parts, contrary to what people might believe. Two situations come to mind. One, there was a man who was driving around in a van up and down the streets. And the neighborhood came together and put it on the little message group and everything, like, who is this guy and what is he doing? And somebody intervened. And it turned out to be very innocent. It was a new neighbor. And so they approached it. He was like, "Actually, I've just moved into the neighborhood. I want to paint my house. And so I'm driving around looking at other similar houses to see how other people have painted their houses because I want to find something that looks good but that also fits in with the neighborhood." And so then everyone's like, "Oh, great. Well, let me tell you the paint color that I've used and everything." And so then people were able to come around this person. But then other times there was a lady who was some sort of Uber Eats or DoorDash driver or something like that. And she was speeding around the neighborhood. And one of the neighbors stepped in front of the car and had the conversation with her. Like, not stepped in front of the car, but like flagged her down and had some very stern words to her. Basically, do not drive like that in our neighborhood. We have children who are here. And she was run out of town.
No. Honey. We don't do that here. We don't speed around like that around here.
Exactly.
Well, and that's good and true, except you told me the story about the black man that was in the neighborhood looking for people to do some kind of job thing. And that was a little bit of a thing.
Well, yeah, that's a very specific demographic. That,
so you say.
Also happens to be quite geriatric as well.
GKs, the Gladys Kravitz. Mm-hmm. They're a whole race of people.
Or the Mrs. Mangles, as we would refer to them as in Australia.
So, yeah, I thought of you yesterday because my house was shaking too. We had an earthquake here, and I hate California, and I want to leave it, but I still cannot at this point. So there is that.
What did it measure on the Richter scale?
It was like a 4.3, and I immediately went, hey, earthquake. And then I jumped and posted into the book with the faces, earthquake. And people went, yeah. And then they went on the news and talked to people that had felt it. And that's as exciting as it ever gets. And one day there's going to be a big one, and then it'll really be news. That's what'll happen. So you told me before we went on the air about your health issues. You've got a little bit of that going on. Anything else exciting that would be entertaining with you this week? I have things.
Oh, you have things?
I have a couple things.
I mean, as much as I love sort of laughing at my trauma, I will say that the medical system in the United States is an absolute fucking joke. And while we're being vigilantes, one of the things that really gets my goat, and I don't know if you have this experience, but you go with your mum to a lot of medical appointments and all of that kind of thing. What is it with my appointment is at 11 a.m. I got here at 10:45 like you instructed me so I could fill out the paperwork and be ready. Why the fuck am I still not seeing a doctor at noon and beyond? I went to an appointment yesterday and I did not get seen by someone for an hour and a half. I sat in the waiting room. And I think the reason that I'm particularly incensed was that there are at least 2 women in there doing what I think is an offense punishable by fucking death. And it is having a phone call on speakerphone and 2 of them at opposite ends. I wanted to kill them both, especially because I'm like, okay, I'm running out of time. I'm working today. I've got to get back home. And then I've got these people just, I can hear both sides of the conversation. I don't know these people. I don't give a shit. And I got very, very cross. And then when I finally got out the back, things didn't go my way. And I needed to have an emergency procedure. That was very painful.
You know what works with the phone people sometimes is you have to commit to it. Well, fire, that would work, but it's a little bit extreme. You get in trouble for that sometimes. But if you commit to just staring at them deep in the eyes and you just stare at them while they're in the middle of the call, they will get uncomfortable and sometimes get what you're putting across and hang up the call. Sometimes that works. And I know exactly what you're talking about with the doctor. I have sat in, first you have the waiting room and then you have the examination room, and they'll put you in the examination room for another half hour. I've waited up to 45 minutes in the examination room after waiting in the waiting room, and it's gotten to the point where in that little house dress that they give you, I have opened the door and walked around and said, is somebody going to help me or what's going on? I have stuff to do. And it's just because of money. Everything really comes down to money. They overbook everything because the doctor needs to make his money and because maybe he's only in the office 3 days a week, and they get as many people in there as they can and they just load them up and make them wait. Welcome to the cattle call, everybody.
Yeah, it's too much. I'm not a fan, but I do really like my doctor.
Did you mention it to him or her?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. She's a good egg. I like her a lot. I like her because she's competent and gives it to me straight and doesn't take no shit off of nobody. And I enjoy it.
What did she say when you brought up the weight? How did she address it?
We actually had a really good little discussion about that as 2 women in business bonding over the fact that with today's worker and the younger generation, you can't just tell them anything anymore. You have to be so careful that you don't offend people. Otherwise, you end up getting in trouble, or they haul you in front of all sorts of jurisdictional bodies and that kind of stuff. You get accused of being a person that you're not, And it's quite a precarious conversation. Now, she's lucky that she's a woman. Men also have it a little bit tougher, particularly, like male doctors. And
well, all white men
that
are
kind of
just
stuff.
evil nowadays. We know that. We've come to realize that all white men are bad and should be shunned no matter what they do. We have that attitude in our society.
It does make it tricky. And yeah, and white women and stuff, like, you don't want to be perceived a certain way. And it's a real shame. And there's a lot of that, I think, in the South that is slightly different and more nuanced than in the North. And anybody who has ever lived in the South will understand that given the history here, there are things that prevail that are different here than they are in other parts of the country that I was completely oblivious to before I moved here. But over time, some of my friends have, tried to help me be a better advocate and a better ally, and understanding a little bit better around why things are the way they are and how I can.
Well, what you're
sort of work
talking
within
about,
that
I
context.
think exists everywhere. And not that we shouldn't be good to people that work with and for us, but also there's the point of the thing where you're employing them and they kind of need to do the job that you're expecting. And we need to have that mentality about it too. Don't be a dick. And I have a good example of don't be a dick actually here. Yesterday, I had one of the greatest wastes of time known to man. It is the slowest time that time can move. It is amazing to me. I have my entertainment day job. It is for a corporation. I had to take a corporate training class on harassment. And usually there's a few little ones that are sexual harassment and this harassment. And every time you get one in your inbox, it's like, okay, this is an inconvenience. It's going to be about a half hour. I'll get through it. This was a new one that they put together, and they hired some BS agency, and it was long and tedious and went on for literally hours and hours and hours. And it was having to take quizzes, and you click the Post-it note to make sure you get this question right. And there's 18 Post-it notes on the screen, and there's people with really bad acting because I'm sure they got them off of Fiverr, doing these reenactments of things, and the color correction is bad. And it just kept going on and on and on, and just the lowest grade acting of, so I'm having an affair with my subordinate and I don't know how to handle that. And it was just like, oh my God, I want to claw my eyes and ears out right now. And it was just like, stop it. We know that we need to not do these things. If we just had a simple philosophy, I will give you the Stewart philosophy of corporate leadership. And if we all just agreed to this and would be sensible about it, it would be a great world. The corporate philosophy is don't be a dick. If you were a dick, I will tell you, just don't be a dick. Handle it, expect that that person is going to do the job, and the person doing the job can just not be a dick, and then everything will be okay. And, oh, you were a dick? Okay, we're going to warn you. Please don't be a dick anymore. Oh, you were a continued dick? Okay, you're fired. And then you move on. Life would be so much simple, and I can get so much more work done in the span of 3 hours that I had to sit. Oh, and you can't just let it run, because then it runs and then it stops, and you have to interact, and it times out in 5 minutes if you don't do something. And you have to watch every single second of it, and it's just excruciating. And I would like to work for you people, but when you do this to me, it makes me not want to work for you people. And I didn't know I was going to even vent like that, but I got a little bit wound up because it was such a thing. Usually they're inconvenient. This was like somebody poking me with a stick for 3.5 hours.
That is absolute nonsense. And I'm so sorry that you had to endure that. What a pain in the ass. Good news, you've inspired another shirt. And I think a side gig for us. So first of all, the shirt that we need to put in the Total Babble marketplace is there's a difference between being frank and being dick.
Ooh, good.
That's okay. That's the shirt.
That's great.
And then 2, we will offer a service to anybody who wants it. They tell us what the scenario is, and we will bring in other like-minded individual, and we will do the frank to dick ratio. We will get to hold up a sign that either says you were being Frank, or you were being Dick.
Like a scorecard.
Like a scorecard. And so if the Dicks outweigh the Franks, then in an ideal world, in the Bichilante environment, a trapdoor would open up and you would fall through it. But that's frowned upon. So instead...
That's in extreme cases.
It's in extreme cases. And so instead, it'll be something like Survivor. But instead of someone extinguishing a torch, they throw a cardboard box at you and tell you to get your shit and fuck off. You've been voted out of the company. You are a dick. Because
people would talk about it too. Oh, did you hear about Johnny? No, what happened with Johnny? Oh, Johnny got trapdoored yesterday. It was a whole thing and he's out of here.
You know what I would prefer that they say? Johnny got the dick. Oh, Johnny's had the dick.
He's been dicked.
Johnny got dicked.
Dude, they took him in there and they dicked him hard.
Exactly.
Oh, it would be so good if we just had some sense in this society.
Oh,
if you and I ran the world, let's start our own country.
We need an Emily and Stu 2024. And this is how all things will be organized.
Yeah, like there are issues that need to be addressed and people aren't perfect, but we also have this society where if somebody breathes in your direction the wrong way, it's a whole issue and you can sue them. And it's just shut up and don't be a dick.
Yeah, and just don't be a dick. And then it favors people who are wealthy because if you can afford frivolous lawsuits, you can crush another person. And it can be completely baseless, but they still have to get representation and do all this sort of stuff. People need hobbies. There should be less of this nonsense. I don't know what it is about Americans and being so litigious, but...
There's also a subsect of society that is on the poor side that goes around suing people too. And I think bottom line, if you have a frivolous lawsuit, you should be fined a lot of money and have to pay legal fees if it is determined that is the case. I think that goes both ways. At least the rich people can afford it, you know?
Yeah, I think that absolutely we should create a separate system of courts which follows the Frank and Dick method. It could be something like valid or Dick.
I can picture the commercials on TV now. We specialize in Frank and Dick litigation.
Frank and Dick. Yeah.
Frank and Dick, we're the experts.
We're the experts. Exactly.
Right. Then I had this other question that came to mind, and I think this is a thing. I just don't know how it weighs out as far as male, female. But I'm wondering, in our world with strangers, is there such a thing as an unintentional body press? Is that something that men and women are both offended by? Is it intentional? I think it is intentional. You're looking very confused. I will give you a couple of examples.
Please. Sorry, I don't know if you heard, but I just threw up in my mouth a little bit. Who's pressing their body?
Well, unintentional body press, but I don't think unintentional body press. This happened to me the other day. I was at Whole Foods looking to buy some Amy's tofu scramble because it was on sale. And I like this. It's pretty good and it's not terrible for you. And first off, I had to find this woman worker to help me find it because she goes, oh, I've got it right here over in the breakfast section. I'm like, okay. So then, because I had a 1-week temporary Amazon account, in order to get the discount, I had to sign into the Amazon app. And I'm like, okay, how do I get the little scan thing to do that? I didn't know how to do any of it because I don't care. She goes, oh, well, you have to go in here and let me show you. And at that moment with my phone, she leaned in and I got like full crotch press and I got full boob press and I could feel her breath on my neck. And I was like, wow. And I felt a little bit Me Too'd because I was kind of shocked, but then didn't say anything. And I thought like, okay, that has to be intentional. And if it's not intentional, how do you make the argument that it's not intentional? And then because I'm a dude, I had the thought process in my head that, wow, I wouldn't be weirded out by this, but I'm not attracted to her. She just wasn't my type. And I thought, wow, if this was Margot Robbie doing this, I would absolutely be into it, but I'm not. But then I don't have the ability to say anything. And I also didn't move away. So I wasn't attracted to her, but I didn't move away. And I think it's like that freeze moment that they talk about where you just go, what's happening here? So then we finally worked it out. And I thought, wow, what was that about? What happened there? Because it didn't seem like there was any mistaking it. And then I thought, okay, if a guy does this to a woman in any circumstance, it's automatically a situation. You automatically feel very violated, except when you go to the barber. Have you ever been sitting in the chair and gotten styled, and whether it's a man or a woman, you get the press when they're leaning and doing stuff? Because when I had hair, I've had this happen as well. And I thought, okay, this person at Whole Foods and people that style your hair, do they not know that they're doing it and what is acceptable?
So I got a clarifying question. And I do believe this is an important question because go with me on this. Was this individual rotund?
No.
Were they massive?
No.
No.
I thought,
Okay.
wow, what would make her attractive? Because she wasn't unattractive. But I thought, okay, that short hair on her is not working. She's kind of youngish. I thought if she had longer hair and more makeup, I would be into it. But I wasn't at the moment, to be honest.
Because I do think that some people who are on the larger side,
can't help it.
Exactly. And I've had a couple of situations where that has happened where, there's like a space and someone has tried to go through said space and there's no fucking way that they're fitting through that space, but they are not aware of their own girth. And so they bounce through me and the thing like a little ball. And that stuff is just an accident. And then I'm like, fair play, not a big deal. No harm, no foul. But the pressing and the breathing and the getting close, that's super weird. They have to be aware, and that's super weird. Oh, did I tell you about the guy who came to fix our washing machine?
I don't know. Did he have crack hanging out?
Didn't check, but it's not that. My husband was talking to Russell, the repair tech, and he was saying that there are certain neighborhoods that he goes into, and while he's trying to fix stuff or while he's having conversations, the man of the house will come and body check him, like just death stare him and like body checking him, trying to intimidate him. And we were having the conversation going, that's really weird. Like, if you're do you want your washing machine fixed or not? Like, save the power moves.
When you say that, like, bumps into him?
Yes. Like chest bumps into them like he's trying to start a fight. Like, you want to start a fight with a guy carrying a drill, you fucking moron. And then also, do you want your washing machine fixed or do you want me to leave? It's just so weird. But apparently it has happened on multiple occasions. Multiple people have done it to him where they're trying to physically intimidate him or start a fight with him. A washing repairman.
What are they saying when they're doing this? Are they having a conversation? They just walk up and do it?
Yeah, just walk up and do it. Like, it's so weird and so high school. Like, you see it in movies, right? Where like a guy or these high schoolers are walking down the hall and then the jock will like shoulder charge the guy as he's walking past. It's like that. But washing repairman or appliance repair guy in their house. What?
Yeah, I can't even begin to guess what's going on there. And I can't picture that happening here. And then I think, is it a thing where it's that coast? Is it the South? There are macho shitheads everywhere that were the jocks in high school that were that way. And I think most of them became cops. But I can't understand how that would happen and how that would come up.
I can't even begin to imagine either. It is just, it's a real brain bender. But the body, I think you need a bubble. You need a personal space. I would be very off-put by that man, woman, child, I don't know, whatever. Although I will say, I was at a theme park last weekend and I was lining up for some pizza that I'd ordered for my little family. And this tiny little girl came up to me with her mum was standing behind me, but the little girl came over and stood in front of me, and she was like, "Hello," and she wanted to wave to me and everything, and then she came to give me a hug because her and I were just talking for a bit, and I was talking to her, asking her about stuff and everything, and then all of a sudden this little girl's like, "Hug," and then she wanted to give me a hug, and I checked in with the mum, and I was like, "Is it okay?" And she's like, "Yeah," and so I gave some random little 2-year-old girl a hug, and that was cool.
See,
Not
I
weird.
love that, but I hate our world because of it. There are so many instances where I don't know, you probably don't know, but I go through life with a pretty okay demeanor until I'm poked with a stick, and I'm pretty open to stuff, and kids usually pick up on that, and kids usually like me. A couple of weeks ago, I was out just walking around because I go out walking, and there was a kid that poked his head over the fence, and he went, "Hey, how are you?" And he must have been 5 or 6. And I was like, "Oh, I'm good, buddy. How are you?" And we were talking a little bit. And I had this feeling because of the way our modern day world is that I wanted to put out positive vibes to the kid and be very friendly and have a good interaction with him. But then I felt like, okay, I need to move on because if I stand here talking to this kid, people are going to think I'm some kind of molester and it's going to be an issue. And his mom is going to stick her head over the fence and like, "What are you doing?" And it's like, wow, if I had encountered that kid on the sidewalk and he wanted to hug, I would have to move away and go like, "Nope, can't do that because it's going to be weird." And I hate that about our world.
It does suck a little bit. Have you seen that TikTok trend that's going around where mums are asking dads, "Would you prefer that our daughter was trapped in the woods with a man or a bear?" And and the dads are really struggling. They're like, "What kind of man?" And they're like, "That's all we know. All we know is that it's just a man or a bear." And they're like, "Is the bear near them?" And we're like, "All the information that we have is that there's a man or a bear with our daughter in the woods. You choose which one."
When you say bear, is it big, furry, gay guy? Because I would be up for that, you would think when they're interpreting.
Oh my God, it's so true. It's so true. I would be, it makes it super easy then. I'd be like, "Bear all day, bear all day, in full leathers for all I fucking care." But definitely the bear.
Maybe not so much an otter. They're a little bit tinier. They're not going to look out for you as much. But a bear is a big, furry, gay guy. And the twinks are just useless. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I mean, my goodness, that's such a good point, and that's the best answer of all time. But I thought it was really surprising.
That's a thing to consider because you don't know what kind of guy you're going to get. And then you can think you don't know what kind of bear you're going to get because like the grizzlies or the browns are worse than the other bears. Could be a koala bear. They're very slow. You can just keep away from them.
Well, yeah, I mean, don't get me started. Koalas aren't bears, but
I'm sorry. The koala marsupials. You got to watch out for them,
Correct.
not.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I take a koala over a kangaroo. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But the interesting thing about this whole scenario is just how difficult it is. You know, you go on the internet and everyone's out there, and I do agree with the sentiment, which is, you know, not all men and all of that kind of stuff. But overwhelmingly, it's men also don't trust other men. And I think that that's really sad. And it makes things like really difficult. And I think it's always been that way. Like it's not a...
I think it's gotten worse.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why that is. It's repression and men's inability to deal with stuff, maybe. And
yeah, which is really weird. I'm fortunate to know a lot of really great men that I 100% trust with my kids and who are amazing and, you know, no worries.
But you don't know when you're going to get that one shithead, and it's not easily something you can tell.
Exactly. And it's sad.
A lot of times they don't have a big Trump flag on their pickup truck to let you know that they are a shithead, and you have to try to judge and figure it out.
No, it's true. It's true. Well, side quest complete.
All right. Well, we still don't know about the press. Have to figure out the press. And do barbers know they're doing it? Like when I've gotten female crotch and men crotch on my arm many times. And I'm like, maybe they are just so disconnected from any kind of sexuality at that point that they're not even thinking of it.
I think that that's the case. You know, it's the eye is on the prize and executing on the activity or the goal. You know, it's like when a professional baseballer goes for a great catch and smashes into a wall. They're going for the ball, not for the wall. So I think it's a similar type of situation. And the reason that I asked about the girth of your super helpy helperson at the shop was maybe she was in a really weird position where, like, this is going to require some mental gymnastics, but imagine you're holding your phone in your right hand, but she's on your left side. Maybe she has vision problems, and to lean forward and lean around and to get to see where it is, maybe she's had to almost sort of go through you, if you know what I mean? Like, she's gotten too close. Maybe she was tired and just didn't realize, and then by the time it had happened, it just got too awkward for both of you to do anything. Maybe she was doing the same thing and she's like stuck to you like a little bit of Velcro and being like, well, I can't recoil in horror because then he might get offended. And so you're both in this, I don't want to offend the other person. And so now you're like stuck together.
I had part 2 where my low self-esteem comes in and I'm trying to judge myself. And I'm like, okay, is she doing this intentionally because she thinks I'm attractive? But then I said, okay, if she is doing it because she thinks I'm attractive, I am wearing a great big mask right now because I still do that in public, and that's how I'm getting by. I'm only getting by because I'm wearing this mask, and I can totally do that. And, the zombie lip was healed up at that point, but she can't see my face, so I have these beautiful eyes, and at least I can get by on that. There's a whole self-judging thing.
Oh, my gosh. In my dreams, you guys would have gone out on a date, and you would have still had the lip lesion, and you could have used the amazing opening question that you and I talked about.
And that is?
So, do you have herpes? While she's looking at this big thing on your lip, and then say, yeah, me neither.
It's a good way to bring it up. Because it's out there. You have to address it. So, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, no, me either. I'm just uncoordinated.
All right. So before we did this, you had to shoo away your dog, and you were like, go, get the fuck out of here, and you'd shooed your dog away. Your dog frustrates you quite a bit, I know, because it's a big, dumb, lumbering, fun-type animal. Though that is the case, I'm just wondering, when you've gotten frustrated with your dog, have you ever had the urge or want or need to shoot it in the face out back? Has that ever come up in your mind?
Well, sort of.
Okay. But you haven't done it.
No. I don't have the pet cemetery. Those sort of actions are quite permanent. I do have a dog that is geriatric and has dementia. And she is really hard work. And she's a sweetheart. But within 30 minutes of feeding her, she starts crying again because she forgets what time of day it is and she thinks it's time for dinner. And she will start crying at like 3:30 in the morning, thinking that it's time for breakfast. And she just cries. If she wants to get up on the couch, she walks around and does the craziest bullshit. And she stands in the way. She just stands there staring at me and will stand right behind me. Like, we'll do things like we'll come up and does like a lean on me, like that lady at the shops. And I'm trying to move around the kitchen and stuff. And I had a terrible instance where I was filling up her water bottle once, and she came around a corner and I literally fell over her backwards and dumped 3 gallons of water all over my kitchen. I split apart the thing. I hurt her. I hurt me. Like, I hurt my back really bad. It was just awful. I've had a time where she's fallen down the stairs and taken me with her, and I've thought she could kill one of the kids on the stairs. So, this is all of this to say, I have absolutely fantasized about taking her down to the vet and getting her thumped in the head. In fact, I've nearly made the appointment multiple times because it's becoming dangerous. But then one day she'll be like, normal again. I'll be like, oh, no, she's so good. She's still good.
This is good backstory. This is good information to know. Mm-hmm. And I really do it as a set of pretense Because it wasn't just that the dog was a puppy 14 months old and then you decided to shoot it in the face. That didn't happen.
No,
Okay.
not to
Because
this
I don't
degree.
know if you've heard the story based on the way this is going. You may not have. But did you hear about Kristi Noem, the South Dakota governor?
No.
No wonder you're telling me the stories of your dog. I was talking about your dog for pretense, but there's this Kristi Noem person. It's been this big thing of internet outrage, and I kind of understand the outrage, actually. But she just put out her new book, and she's a right-wing, ultra-conservative asshole. And she had a new dog that she said wasn't trainable. It wasn't a good dog. It couldn't be a hunting dog. So at the age of 14 months old, when that was the case, she took him out to the gravel pit and she shot him in the face to kill him because she couldn't train him right. And because though she couldn't train him right and he was attacking chickens, that was the answer. You seem like you're kind of sympathetic to this. I am not. This is interesting.
Yep, I'm into it. Here's why.
Wow.
So I grew up on a farm, and there are reasons for doing these types of things. But I think in my modern life here, if I had an untrainable dog and everything like that, it's for a different purpose. Okay, I don't have dogs that are working dogs that are a threat to my livestock or anything. If I did, I would put them down. So let me give you a really specific example. If you have a dog on your farm that starts taking and killing your livestock, I'm sure that some expert dog trainer will get on here and, maybe tell me that I'm wrong. But once they get a taste for the blood and they start hunting and they do that sort of thing, like we had a dog once that had all of these puppies and she took them out and they killed all of our goats. Once you've got a dog that does that, you can't have them be a working dog on a farm. They're all fucked up. So they have to go be domestic pets, or you need to put them down.
See, I was immediately thinking domestic pet, and I can't believe I'm doing the show with Kristi Noem. It's freaking me out a little bit. What the hell? Because, yeah, she was supposed to be the one that Trump was going to choose as his VP because she was a woman and she's hot and she's perfect to do this. And then she came out with this book and people are freaking out like, oh my God, it was 14 months old. It wasn't trainable as a hunting dog. And everybody, including me, said, well, okay, you either keep it in your house and just make it a regular dog, or you give it to somebody in a family that can take care of it, or at the very worst, you take it to the pound and say, I can't train this dog. And we don't know really how much she couldn't train the dog. Like, is it the kind of thing where, okay, she let it out and it went and attacked her neighbor's chickens? That happened. But is it just that, or is it attacking the kids? I don't get the sense that it was attacking the kids, and I don't think that that was the case. And she's certainly not brought that up as she's been defending herself and trying to rationalize it. So I just feel like, wow, shooting your dog in the face as a puppy is perhaps the worst thing you could do.
There are worse things you could do. Do you want to hear one?
Sure. Let's
not
go.
Uncommon. Putting a bunch of cats in a bag and throwing it in a river. People do that all the time. Now that I'm wholeheartedly against. That is just frightful. Get the cats fixed and do that sort of stuff. But different strokes for different folks, and there are different roles and stuff for different animals. Let's think about it within the context of a working animal. If it can't do its job, there's no point in having it. So, for example, imagine you've got a police dog or you've got some sort of a dog that has a job, right? Now imagine that it doesn't do its job. It goes off script and just attacks people. You can't rehabilitate that. I mean, you might be able to try, but ultimately, skip to the end. It gets the needle.
Ferocious animal attacking people, I can more understand. Even that is a little bit of a tough sell for me, but that at least I can go, okay, I see the point that it is a danger, but the rest of this, I don't. As far as being a working animal goes, okay, it's a working animal, but it's still a living, breathing thing, and to take away its life because it doesn't fit the slot that you need it to slot into, really bothers me. That's you're taking away a life because it's not what you want it to be, and you could just give it to somebody else or take it somewhere else.
I do agree, but I can also empathize. You know, what I would do, I'm not saying that I would do it personally, but I definitely know people who would do that, and I could understand why they would do that. You know, getting a dog put down is also very expensive. But
well, not if you have a shotgun. You just take them out back in the gravel pit and right in the face.
Right. But getting it humanely euthanized is
and do they really
expensive.
know? It's not like you can ask them after the fact, hey, how was that death for you? And the dog will go, oh, that was great, thanks. So you don't really know that it's humane.
You don't really know that it's humane.
I would say just a little bit of advice from me to you. When you go to the school board meetings, maybe don't brag about wanting to kill all your pets and shoot them in the face and all that kind of thing. People might be a little bit off-put.
Maybe they might. Or they might like to know that I'm someone who can make the tough decisions.
If this is a part of the Frank and Dick party, I don't know that I want to be a part of it. It's a little bit too frank to be shooting a puppy in the face for me.
You know, it's not ideal. It's not ideal. But I could come up with some scenarios where I'd be like, yep, shoot it.
Violent dog attacking people, I get, but the rest of it, I don't get. It's like,
or livestock dog, or some sort of dog that's on a farm that does that sort of thing. There's no role for it. And if you're out in the community, like if say that you're out in a place where the community is also like-minded, you can't just take that dog to the next farm. And what are you going to do? Drive it all the way into the city to make it somebody else's problem, someone down?
I would say yes. It's a living thing, so you do the best you can for humanity and to not be a horrible monster. That's what I think.
Yeah, but like last week, you were like, I'll take it.
That was a joke.
Release it in the woods.
When I was talking about leaving Floki in the woods, that was a joke.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I clarified. I would want to leave him in the woods. I probably wouldn't do it because I do have a heart.
Yeah. Well, I could get there.
This totally blows my marketing campaign. I had a new marketing strategy for us. I was going to do Total Babble podcast. Hey, at least we don't shoot our dog in the face. That's going to be my marketing campaign. So it works for half of us.
Just to be clear, I haven't shot my dog in the face. I can just see why somebody might, and that I have an appreciation for, different types of lives, because I have grown up around farmers.
Right. And if you're doing this with a puppy that is 14 months old, is that the puppy's fault, or is that your fault because you're not able to train that puppy?
Could be one or the other. Some dogs are just fucked up.
It's just in them to be that way?
Well, they get fucked up, especially if they're running around and free roaming. Like, once it kills an animal, once the dog gets a taste for the blood of, like, your chickens or your goats, or, and here's another one that's really bad, chasing horses. But a horse will sort the dog out. A horse will kill the dog before you have to kill the dog. It'll just trample it to death.
So you're saying we should pay horses to kill the dogs that we don't want?
Definitely not.
Okay.
But in the game of fuck around and find out, it'll end very badly. It's because some animals will just kill the dog, and so that's the lesson learnt for the dog there. Because then what happens too, another thing is, if the dog attacks a horse, and maybe the horse gets it but doesn't kill it, that's even worse, because now you've got a dog that's now going to cost a lot of money and vet bills and all of that kind of stuff. And then in those situations, you might have to humanely put it down.
To me, if you take the responsibility of getting a new dog and you are unable to train it, it feels like that's on you. And at the very least, you owe that living thing at least a couple-hour drive to relocate it. And even if you can't relocate it, leave it on somebody's doorstep and run away. So at least it will get dealt with and it's not your problem, especially if it's just not your problem because it doesn't do the weird hunting thing that you want it to do.
Yeah. And then someone else, and then someone else will just shoot it in the face. So you just delay the inevitable. Oh, I will have you know, I have one of those dogs, by the way. I did adopt one of those dogs that was on its last legs because she was very difficult to train. She's a working dog. She was still a puppy. She was traumatized. She'd been abused. She'd been returned to the pound multiple times for biting people.
It's a good thing that you don't want it to hunt because then...
But I have invested a lot of time and money in training that particular dog, and it's been very difficult, but she's still not perfect. She does attack people if they come in our yard. Like we have to have a beware dangerous dog sign. But hands down, if she bites a child, I love that dog so much, but if she bites a child, I will take her straight to the vet and have her put down because she can't be fixed.
Maybe it's because I had dogs growing up all my life, and this was an experience that I have. I could show you the scar right now. When I was, I think, 8 years old, I was riding my bike, and I was on the sidewalk, and there was a dog that was staked into the ground just going nuts. And it tore the stake out of the ground and came after me, and it jumped up and bit my leg and tore a big chunk of flesh out of my leg. Like you could see the bone in my leg. And it went to the emergency room and got stitched up. And because I was so young, they couldn't give me anesthetic. So I remember being stitched up with like somebody just putting thread through your leg with a needle. And even though all that was the case, my mom said to the owners, no, we don't want you to put your dog down. I don't think that's right. Please just make sure that never happens again. Maybe my childhood trauma is what makes me a loving person, I guess is what I'm coming to. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
It's weird.
Yeah. Maybe. I feel like if that was my dog, right, and all of the scenarios, you've got to think about the context and the scenario and all of those different types of things, but I would take that into consideration. So, for example, there's a huge difference between if somebody comes into your yard and your dog bites them because it's territorial versus your dog maybe escapes your yard and then chases down a child or something like that. You hear these stories of pit bulls like mauling children to death and that kind of thing. Like, without a doubt, that's not the first time that they were ever aggressive. And then you have a responsibility as a dog owner to sort that out. And I think that people who have dogs, I'll give another example, like Cane Corso or something, nobody needs that type of dog. There was a guy who was doing some garden renovations and stuff for us, and he went out and gave an estimate to somebody, and they didn't secure their dog, and he got mauled aggressively to the point where he's lost function in some of his hands, affecting his business, because that person has a dangerous dog that they have never trained, that has no recall, and that has been trained to attack people. The people who own that dog, they should 100% be liable, and that dog should be put down. Like,
yeah, I can agree with that.
Dog.
When a dog has been trained to do that, I get the point.
Yeah. Yeah, super, super rough.
All right. Well, anyway. I guess I can still go with the marketing strategy, Total Babble Podcast. Hey, at least we don't shoot our dog in the face. It's true. We have different views on the level of things, but I guess it's true. Have you heard about these idiots with their bullshit new fashion?
Well, I mean, where do we begin? But I'm going to cross my fingers for these amazing denim pants with the snaps that open at the back.
No, you're on the right track with the denim. Maybe they have those with these jeans. I'm talking about the designer P jeans. There's a new line of jeans hitting the fashion world that have a massive stain in the crotch. It makes you look like you peed your pants. They sell them this way. The jeans by the British-Italian company Jordan Luca are selling for $608 online. Originally, they were $800, $111 online. They say they sold out, but did they sell out because they only had 2 of them in stock and they're trying to make it like a thing? Is anybody really buying these? Would anybody really walk around with a big stain in your crotch like you just peed your pants because it was a designer thing? What do you think?
Ridiculous in so many ways, and they should have called them the Billy Madison jeans.
I don't remember that Billy Madison scene. You'll have to take us back.
Or maybe it's not Billy Madison. It's the one where, or Big Daddy or something, the movie where it's an Adam Sandler movie.
I think it was Big Daddy.
And he pees himself and then he splashes the pee on the front of his pants. And then he incites everybody peeing themselves because it's like the cool thing. And that's what this reminds me of. It is outrageous. Would I do it? No. Do other people do it? Obviously.
Do you think enough people are doing it?
I do. And what makes me predict this is, you know, those stupid red boots?
No.
Oh my goodness. I have to, they are big red Astro Boy boots.
Kind of like glam rock boots if you were in a glam rock band, that kind of thing?
No, they are big red rubber boots and they are like Euracon or whatever. They're these things.
Oh my God. They look like big clown boots, like something Ronald McDonald would wear.
Exactly. It's ridiculous. And seeing people wear this shit, and they're so hard to get on or off. And here is just enjoy photos of these fuckwits wearing. Okay.
What did you Google for people to find that if they want to look at that?
I Googled big red Astro Boy boots. And yeah, so the fact that people buy these and wear these is what leads me to believe that people will wear the pissy panties. So Big Red Boots has actually also, like Mischief and Crocs, Big Red Boot, have collaborated with Crocs. I know I just said that twice, but look at those. They have these disgusting yellow versions now that have the croc holes and the flap at the back. The world's gone mad. And I don't like it.
So have you seen people around in those red boots? I know you see them online, but like, are they in the normal cities where we live and breathe and shoot our dogs?
Yes. It is in, if you go to downtown on a Saturday night, I think they're a bit passé now, but there was a time where you would see a couple of fuckwits wearing those Mischief Big Red Boots, looking like a caricature of themselves. And so there are some practical elements to this, and this is part of the reason why I don't wear heels anymore. There could be a drive-by at any time. You can't move quickly in those. You can't get down low and go in your big red boots. These people are fools. Fools!
Yeah, I can't, even beyond the safety issues, I can't imagine wearing something like that. And I think what we need to do, and again, this goes back to what I said before, is when these people start doing crazy crap, we just have to commit to staring at them. If somebody walks in the room, they've got a big pee stain thing on their pants, you can take a whiff, and if it's like they had an accident and it's not their fault, leave them alone. But if they're wearing designer pee pants, we need to stare at them right in the eyes and just commit to them and give them that look like, what kind of asshole are you? I'd really like to determine what kind of asshole are you. Those big red dumb clown boots, what kind of asshole are you? You don't have to have a verbal altercation. Just give them the stare.
Quick question though. Isn't that what they want? They obviously want people looking at them.
I would be playing into their thing.
I wonder, are you falling for their trap?
That's a good point. Something to consider. Well, I just know that there is one big benefit to these jeans, and Steve Martin predicted it about 40 years ago. Here's Steve Martin.
Because I have figured out something. Muggers do not like to rob you if they think you're crazy. Because they're afraid they'll start having to explain, it'll take up too much time, and they'll be standing there going, okay, one more time. Take the money, give it to me, I'll run off, and then you won't have the money, then you yell for help, okay? No. What? So all you have to do is look crazy, So whenever I have like $10 and I want to walk down the street with it, first, I wet my pants. So I get a big stain. Then I take a baby carriage and push it down the street and put garbage in it. Now, if you don't want to get that involved, much simpler thing, the moment you are aware you're being robbed, throw up on your money.
We'll pass. We'll get you next time, though, buddy. Thanks for coming by.
So if you're going to walk down the street, you just put on the designer pee pants and act crazy, and people will think that you're a crazy person and they won't want to rob you. That is the answer right there.
Well, I mean, thankfully they serve at least some purpose. I really believe the other purpose is to signal to other people that they shouldn't procreate with you.
Nobody wants to be around those.
Yeah, if you're wearing those, you're from the shallow end of the gene pool, pun intended.
Well, it appears we have come to about the end of another show. Show done.
Show done.
I enjoyed you mostly.
I love this. You're going to have nightmares. You're going to be sitting awake going, what will it take for Emily to want to shoot me in the face?
I wonder if I'm going to hear from people, wow, that thing with Emily and the dogs, I don't know. I don't know now. I didn't expect it to go that way.
Oh, really? You think I'm going to be shunned by our audience?
No, I think you're pretty unshunnable, but it's going to be a surprise, I think.
You know me, I always like to try to find and come from a place of kindness and empathy for the other people of it. You know, I try to take the route of most people are decent and good and trying to do the best with what they have. And sure, they make decisions based upon their socialization and how they grew up and everything, but mostly people are good, right? They're not out there trying to make bad choices or be bad people. Sometimes they end up being bad people, but because they're a product of their environment or they've made bad choices or anything. And so I always try to err on that way, on that side, and then think, how could somebody rationalize this? Because we never know the full story. And so I'm trying to come from that place of being empathetic towards people who have a different lived experience.
I think people are generally inherently okay, but they get greedy and get self-involved and don't care about anybody else as we go through this world that we've created. That's generally what I think.
I agree.
All right. Show done.
Bye.
Okay, you know how this goes. Like us, subscribe, tell your friends, write a nice review, engage with us. We're Total Babble on Instagram, on Facebook,